Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking about how much Hall of Famers matter in winning championships. But first, before we get into that, let's welcome the panel. Up top here, we got Sports and Fitness Rants. Robin, how are you today?
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everybody feeling today? Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. I'm doing great, guys. Let's roll.
We got Hoop God. How are you today?
Oh man, it's a great day. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets for putting that butt whooping on the Lakers last night.
Yep. We got AOH. How are you?
Good morning. My camera went out, I guess. Can you guys see me?
It's a little laggy. It may recover. I don't know, but yeah, it got laggy on this side, at least for me. And then we got Nick on the bottom here from NMB Sports. How are you today?
Doing good. It's game day.
Yep, absolutely. So, Robin, what's your take on the the narrative that Hall of Famers on a team will lead to championships?
So you want me to come out the gate hot? Why do you want me to come out the gate hot? I'm playing. No, like I said, once again, this is what it's all about. It's all about stopping these narratives, setting the record straight. So when we talk about, quote unquote Hall of Famers, there's different levels to this. Not every Hall of Famer is quote unquote created equal, so to speak. Some Hall of Famers are guys that you knew were going to be Hall of Famers from the minute they came out of college. You knew, man, these guys are going to be Hall of Famers, no doubt about it. But as it pertains to the Basketball Hall of Fame, we must remember a couple of things. Some guys are in the Hall of Fame because of their overseas basketball careers, not just because of their quote-unquote NBA careers. So these are some of the things that we have to keep in mind. Also, there are also players that are in the Hall of Fame now because of the situations that they found themselves in, right? Maybe they were on great teams and they ended up winning several championships, so that helped them get into the Hall of Fame, right? Maybe they played alongside great players, so that helped them get into the Hall of Fame, right? So these are some of the things that we must think about when we think about a Hall of Fame player. So when we talk about the narrative that Hall of Famers on your team will make you a greater team, that may not necessarily be true, because we all know about things like team chemistry, right? Guys forming a cohesive, like I said, chemistry together on the court. So it'll make us believe that, like I've told people many times, in the 90s, when people say that the Chicago Bulls were the favorites, oftentimes what they're not realizing is the Bulls may have been perceived as a favorite some of the times, most of the time, but not all of the time. But why was that? That was because of Michael Jordan. It wasn't always because the Bulls had the better team per se, because when we talk about having a great team, right, and being a great team, what do you have to have? You have to have that team chemistry. And what do we see back in those days? Teams would stay together longer. You would have cores, right, that would stay together, that would develop that chemistry, which would help them maximize each other, right, and help them become greater. So when we talk about the Chicago Bulls, just for an example, we think about something like the 1992 Portland Trailblazers. People may have perceived the Bulls to be a better team, to be their favorite, so to speak, right? But when you think about the team on the Portland Trailblazers, top to bottom, they were the better team. They had the better overall team. They had the better players, and they were around for a while. When you think about guys that we all know about Clyde Drexler, the Terry Porters, the Kevin Duckworths, the Buck Williams, the Cliff Robertsons, the Danny Ainges. A lot of these guys, the Jerome Kerseys, that were on that Portland Trailblazers team. So it would lead you to believe, just because there weren't Hall of Famers on that team, that wasn't a great team. But Clyde Drexler is a Hall of Famer, but they'll say, oh, there's nobody else on that team. Those other guys were really good players, maybe not Hall of Famers. So those are the kind of things we have to think about.
All right, real fast, we got a super chat from Full Venom Jacket for AOH for 10 Canadian dollars. Good morning, guys.
It's like
Good
$2.
morning.
Good morning, A.
Just kidding.
Good morning, guys. I feel great today. I'm super full after I ate 7 apple turnovers this morning. Anyway, anyways, can we talk about LeBron trying to guard Jokic in the third and how comical that was? What's your take on that, AOH?
Woo! I had to vent about that a little bit last night, so I'll be redundant. Man, it wasn't just Jokic. Porter seemed to be able to score on him. It's just what stood out to me is that if LeBron isn't on someone smaller than him, he's done. He's cooked. And if he is guarding someone smaller than him, he might get blown past. So he's a defensive liability either way, unless you give him the favorable matchup. That
Mm-hmm.
you can't put someone like that in a GOAT conversation. It, and I already talked about it, but it's like, how many times did we see Michael Jordan have to back down from the tough defensive assignment because the other guy was bigger, or not drive the lane because the guy guarding him was bigger? You don't make excuses if you're the GOAT. You overcome if you're the GOAT. And I posted last night. I tell you, there's something really comforting about seeing Jokic get the ball in the high post. He is so good with that mid range. You know it's going to be successful. And when I saw LeBron on him, like, I just started filming. As soon as he caught the ball, I'm like, well, this is going in. Sure enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, Hoop God, what do you have to say about what Robin said and the topic at hand, or if you have anything to add to what AOH said?
Yeah, so just to echo some of Sports and Fitness Rand's statements, that's absolutely true, because I was like researching this just so I could get a better perspective. For example, right, we know Kevin McHale's a Hall of Famer, just like Robert Parrish is a Hall of Famer, and Dennis Johnson, right? But I really do not believe, had they not played with Larry Bird and been on the Celtics team, I do not believe they would have made it to the Hall of Fame, simply because when they did not play with Larry Bird, they did not have the same production that he had. And this is what I mean. So when Larry Bird first came to the Celtics, right, they were a 29-win team that at that time was the worst in Celtics history. Just him alone, his first year as a rookie, immediate turnaround. They go to 61 wins, doubling what they did the previous season, without Kevin McHale, without Robert Parrish, without Dennis Johnson. Now, the following year, when they get to the finals, Kevin McHale was coming off the bench as a sixth man. Now, everybody loves to talk about, well, Cedric Maxwell won the MVP, blah, blah, cool. But Cedric Maxwell was also on that 29-win team, I have to remind them. And then I believe Robert Parrish, I don't even think he was a rotational player in Golden State. Like, I think he was barely getting minutes. So when I tell people like Sports and Fitness Rant said, they're Hall of Famers because of playing with Larry Bird, and Larry Bird being the selfless player that he is, elevated those guys. And then when you transition to 1986, that they went 40-1 at home, which is still the greatest home court record to this day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But then I wanted to segue into the Seattle Supersonics. Again, Dennis Johnson, only Hall of Famer, if I'm not mistaken, from that team. He won the Finals MVP. It was a similar situation. I want to say, like how Kawhi Leonard and Iggy won theirs. Like, DJ wasn't the best player. He just so happened to have the best series in that finals, which ultimately won him that. But then let's look at the Detroit Pistons 2004. I believe Chauncey Billups finally made the Hall of Fame this year. But Ben Wallace was a defensive anchor for that team, but Chauncey pretty much was the engine that made them go. And I really feel like he got snubbed because he should have been in there a long time ago. But for the most part, I don't think nobody was really looking back on them and saying, oh, well, yeah, Detroit got a bunch of Hall of Famers like the Lakers. They were already saying they had 4 future Hall of Famers. I remember this vividly. And they were like, this is a David versus Goliath matchup. But yet, the Detroit Pistons played a team style of ball and just out-executed the Lakers and took them completely out of their game plan. And ultimately, led to a championship. So, yes, those guys will become Hall of Famers, I believe, based off that series and then the production that they proceeded to achieve after that. But had they not won, I don't believe any of those guys would have been Hall of Famers, because they would have looked back and said, what did you win? Y'all know how Hall of Fame is. And I really don't like the criteria, because with all due respect, Vlade is great overseas, but, bro, you made one All-Star in the NBA. I don't think that should be enough to put you in the Hall of Fame. And I get it. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. I get it. But that's just not enough. Now, Calvin Murphy, on the other hand, he was great in college. I think he had one Hall of Fame appearance not Hall of Fame, one All-Star appearance in the NBA. But I believe they're taking a lot of his collegiate accomplishments and awards that got him there. But, yeah, the whole thing about Hall of Famers and championships, yeah, I think it's based off that one individual player and ultimately how he uplifts his team. And then when we look back on it, in hindsight, we're like, oh, well, yeah, of course James Worthy's a Hall of Famer and Michael Cooper, but who were they being led by? Irvin Magic Johnson. So to sum it up, I don't believe it's Hall of Famers. I believe you have that one guy, that can elevate everybody, and then ultimately that's when they take off.
All right. Nick, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, real quick, I did want to say on Calvin Murphy, I remember reading a Slam article back in high school, and they said he was the greatest high school basketball player ever. I remember him being their #1 pick. So I just want to throw that in about Calvin Murphy. It's pretty interesting. He was really good. People don't talk about him a whole lot. But I want to better understand the question specifically, right? Are we saying that adding or having guys who are already like a lock to be a Hall of Fame, to have those guys added on your team is needed? Or are we saying, because obviously there's a lot of overlap between the best guy leading his team to a championship and ultimately making it to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I mean, think of it like this: all the people that come up to you and say, "This guy had all these Hall of Famers on this team. That's why he won." Let's say Bill Russell. That's one that's used often. So just think about how you hear it. It's not really a pointed question. It's about the narrative. So however you take the narrative.
Yeah, I guess I feel like it's like a little redundant, right? Like you need Hall of Fame worthy players to win rings. Like, I mean, there's a lot of overlap to that, right? But I also agree 100% with what Robin said. Not all Hall of Famers, especially when we talk about the NBA, are not all built the same, right? Yeah, we got international guys who got in, guys who won a lot of rings, but maybe were the second or third best player their whole career, right? You think about a little bit like a Clyde, right? I mean, if I know Clyde was a multi-time All-Star and above 20 points per game and stuff like that for the majority of his career, but if he doesn't win that ring, right? I mean, it's just all about how people look at your legacy in the end, right? So I mean, ultimately, I mean, I feel like it's just a redundant question. It's hard to say. It's like yes and no, right? Like what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's kind of my thought process on it right now.
Oh, hold on one second. Wraith Mace just became a member of somebody. I know it's not my channel, but Wraith Mace, if you could say who you became a member to, please say who you became a member to so they could shout you out. I'm sorry, Nick. Did you were you finished? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I mean, it's there's a lot of nuance to this one, right? It's
There's
sort of
no
like
nuance, Nick. Answer the question, man. You always got to make it complex. You always got to be analytical about these things. Do more Hall of Famers make your team better or not? Do more Hall of Famers equate to you being a better team per se? It doesn't matter necessarily when you added the Hall of Famers, but does that matter? Or do things like team chemistry matter? Things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Playing with each other for periods of time.
I mean, ultimately, yes, more Hall of Famers does equal a higher probability of at least getting to the finals or winning, right? It's just Hall of Fame worthy players are already good, right? So they already put your floor and ceiling so high. I would say
Nick, quick question.
Ultimately, yes, but not always.
All right, so
Nick,
let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Hold on, guy. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I just want an example. So, like, what we're talking about is when you hear a lot of these LeBron James fans, they'll bring up, right, the 2012 Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And what they'll say is like, oh, they had James Harden, they had Kevin Durant, they had Russell Westbrook. And what they'll say is, oh, LeBron James beat 3 MVPs. He beat 3 MVPs, Hall of Famers. So what we're saying is like, just because they're Hall of Famers, right, per se, they're not obviously in the Hall of Fame as of now, but just because they're going to be Hall of Famers, or that we see now all these years later that perhaps they're going to be Hall of Famers or that they won MVPs, does that necessarily make them a great team?
No, because at that time, right, Harden wasn't a Hall of Famer. Westbrook,
right, but they're Hall of Fame caliber players, though, right? You know what I'm saying?
At that time, no, I don't think Harden was.
No, at that time, yeah, Harden was coming off the bench. He hadn't elevated yet.
He was a great sixth man, I think, but Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Right,
nuanced.
right.
Like,
That's the whole point, though. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what we're talking about. So if people are gonna say, "Oh yeah, you guys played with a Hall of Famer. This guy was a Hall of Famer," this is the point that we're making. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great team, or that you were a great team, or that you would even be a Hall of Famer. Because, like you said, if James Harden never asked for the way out of Oklahoma City and goes for the money, does he actually become a Hall of Fame caliber player, or does he just become that perennial sixth man that's on that role for the rest of his career? Do we talk about him winning an MVP trophy? See, these are the things that we're talking about. So these are kinds of things that we allude to with a Bill Russell. When Bill Russell's on your team, now all of a sudden you're elevating some of these other guys into a realm where they'll be considered for a Hall of Fame. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with all that too. I'm being political again. I hate it.
we'll beat you, man. We want to beat you today.
All right, AOH, you were the one that Wraith Mace joined as a member. Do you have anything to say about that?
Thank you for joining. Hey, members, I've neglected you. I think I'm going to do a members live stream this next week. So watch for me to post for that. I'm on the road for a few days, so I'm not sure what day I'll do it. But I appreciate you, members. Thank you, Wraith. Welcome to the channel.
Hoop Guide, you said you were you going to say something, or are you good for AOH to go and do his take?
No, I was just gonna ask Nick, how many Hall of Famers did the Dallas Mavs have in 2011 versus the Big Three Miami Heat?
2. By career wise, in terms of when they were playing, only 1.
Right. So my thing is, even though Miami had the quote unquote Hall of Fame talent, Dallas still took them down, which I'm rooting for them because I loved it, especially when they mocked Dirk in game 4.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the team will always triumph just having Hall of Famers, 100%. Right. It's just I feel like there's a lot of overlap because usually the better team guys are Hall of Famers, or the guys who do produce are Hall of Famers already, right? So ultimately, no, I'm going to say that, but I'm just going to say there's a lot of overlap between having the best talent and the best players just equates to rings, right? It just kind of is that simple for the most part, which I know is a boring answer, but
well, let's put it this way. It should, because someone who's a Hall of Fame caliber player is also the type of person who mentally would be willing to do what is necessary for the team. LeBron James has had teams with Hall of Famers that should have done more than they did. LeBron James actually hurts the ability for those Hall of Famers to have better lasting legacies. Those teams should have all done better, except that LeBron James and the LeBron James system shits all over those people. Now, the next thing I want to talk about with Hall of Famers is now things are getting so political that some guys who maybe should be Hall of Famers could potentially be left out so that they could say LeBron didn't have as many Hall of Famers, and some people might get put in it to say, "Oh, look who LeBron had in the face." I mean, that's how crazy things are getting.
Right.
You guys tell me this: is Draymond Green going to end up being a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
You think?
I think he should. He should.
Oh, not if he was never.
You said he should. Don't get me started on Draymond Green.
Oh no! If
he was never.
No.
He's my favorite.
No.
Yeah, if he wasn't with Golden State system, he'd be a nobody. He might be a great role player, but you wouldn't be having this ridiculous conversation. So some things do have to do with the system that you're around. Obviously, you can't deny that. What about coaches? What about what about Hall of Fame coaches? I've seen. It's weird some of the stuff that comes out trying to help LeBron James. I saw a video where this guy, I don't know who he was, is speaking to an audience. They assembled these people in an auditorium to tell them how shitty all of LeBron James's coaches have been. Who does this? Who actually has a symposium to make excuses for somebody? And, they, of course, crapped on Spoelstra. Well, is Spoelstra going to be a Hall of Fame coach? I think he probably will be. I mean, look what he's doing. Now, if obviously Phil Jackson goes into that category, but if LeBron James had Phil Jackson, you know what they would say? some acid. Ron had to deal with some acid dropping hippie that, as a coach, instead of calling him the Zen master, they'd be calling him an acid dropping hippie.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, so for one, with the Draymond Green thing, I
Uh-oh.
totally agree with AOH, and I think everyone's on the same page here. And I've said it multiple times. Draymond Green, if he's on another system, might not even be in the league. He might not have even made it past his first contract, but he was just able to. He was in a great situation. He thrives there. I absolutely agree, and I'm not every for the people that don't know, it's kind of a running joke with Draymond Green for me, but but no, in respect to the defensive player of the years and winning the championships and being a core part of that team, and to just transition into my take about the Hall of Fame stuff. There's a lot of guys that are on the Bill Russell Celtics that, if you on paper, outside of winning those championships, should not be in the Hall of Fame. They were bench players. The reason why they're in the Hall of Fame is because they were on that amazing run. But to bring it back a little bit too, is that Hall of Fame players aren't playing right now. So something that was said before that is kind of being used in the same light is that, yeah, future Hall of Famer. What does that exactly mean? Because you could be great in spots like Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh maybe should be put in the Hall of Fame, but he's one of those guys that might not make it. But
No, he's
during
in there.
that, oh,
He's
did
in
he
there.
make it? Okay, I don't. Okay, but yeah, I don't know. But what I'm getting at is that there are guys that were really great in moments, but they might have fallen off, and then they just don't make it. They might have been the best in the league. Like even guys like our friend Gilbert Arenas, who was really good in moments. It doesn't mean they're going to necessarily make it. So I think the biggest thing for me with the Hall of Fame take, or Hall of Famers will get you championships, and the example used with the Thunder with the
Oh,
3 MVPs and the Hall of Famers is that it's a hindsight award. For one, you don't even know if they're going to make it into the Hall of Fame, and the way that they do is that they're good in the moments that they play. That's how they become Hall of Famers. So like the Draymond Greens of the world, or if you go and you look back to a lesser degree, because I think Scottie Pippen's a lot better than this. What if Scottie Pippen didn't win the 6 championships? What awards did he get otherwise that would have qualified him? So that's how I look at it. I think a lot of people will mix the two things together, but I understand what they're saying. But the fact of the matter is if they fall off after they're on such a hot run, they might not even make the Hall of Fame. What people will say is that they're just great players. Does anything have anything to add to that before we transition? Or
the
Yeah,
Thunder
Dart.
were children. The Thunder were children in 2012.
yeah,
Yeah, Dart. I wanted to add to what you were saying. Like, I think the best way to categorize it, you would have, the superstar Hall of Fame, and then you would have like the role player Hall of Fame. And this is what I mean by that. Like when you said Scottie Pippen, right? And Scottie
Mhm.
Pippen is great. I'm gonna give Scottie Pippen his just due. But we've seen what Scottie Pippen did without Michael Jordan. Because Scottie was the guy that, yeah, he could fill up the stat sheet, he could go out there and play lockdown defense, but ultimately you need that superstar to bring the game home in the fourth quarter. And that simply just was not Pippen. It's not a knock to him. That just wasn't a quality that he possessed. Now, when you add that Michael Jordan element, now it takes them over the top because you got two guys who are going to give the ultimate effort on defense, out execute you, capitalize on your mistakes and your mental blunders. But then you also got that guy that's willing to take that shot. Why? Because he's practiced these moments time and time again. He just got that competitive nature. You can't teach that. Either you have it or you don't. Then I'll segue to another guy, all-time great. I love him, but not Dennis Johnson. Joe Dumars. I don't know why I'm thinking about DJ, but Joe Dumars, Detroit Pistons, right? Now we know Isaiah Thomas was the leader of that team. However, he had to sacrifice a lot of his game and let his teammates thrive in their roles. And ultimately, that's how they were able to dethrone the Celtics and become champions. Now, you take away the Isaiah Thomas element, I don't believe they'll go to the finals. But then you put him in concert with those guys, and then they play like the style of play they play. A lot of people didn't like I love the Bad Boys. If Jordan didn't go through them, I don't believe we would have seen this version of Michael Jordan. However, Joe Dumars, I would say he would be in that role player Hall of Fame. Isaiah Thomas, superstar, just like McHale. I would put him in the role player Hall of Fame. Larry Bird, superstar. You can even put Robert Parrish in there. I think they should have the category like in tiers. You know how they got like the certain jackets in the NFL? They got the red jacket, the blue jacket, and then you got a gold jacket. I would separate them like that. I'm like, okay, here go the top tier guys right here. You know, here go the other guys. Because it's like we know when we're looking like the 94 Rockets. Hakeem didn't even have, I would say, a role player superstar in 94. But then Clyde comes in 95, and then he repeats as a champion. He sweeps Shaq. But then I'm looking at the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan, superstar. David Robinson, a role player. Because they couldn't even get to the finals without Tim Duncan. But I just wanted to add that in there when what you were just speaking on, when you talked about criteria and how certain people get in, but it's like we don't really like, wait, how did he get in here and how did this guy not get in here? You know, because I'm thinking,
I was just
I don't
gonna
know
say,
if you guys are familiar, but do y'all believe Mark McGuire is a Hall of Famer? I do, but I don't know why he's not in there.
I was gonna say this argument really, I think you said it right for us. It's like we're arguing really what is the difference between those like first ballot superstar Hall of Famers and then guys who make the Hall of Fame versus some other guys who might not have made the Hall of Fame who we know were better, right? That's kind of, I think, the nuance of this debate as I kind of hear us go through it.
Yeah, well, listen, it's because there needs to be more of a standard to make the Hall of Fame. That's really what the problem comes down to, man. There's no standard for the damn Hall of Fame. Because it's labeled as the Basketball Hall of Fame, you could be a great college player and get in the Hall of Fame. You could be a contributor, get into the Hall of Fame. You could be a great international player and get into the Hall of Fame. You don't have to play a lick of time in the actual NBA to be compared as a Hall of Famer, quote unquote Hall of Famer, in NBA conversations. For example, Tony Kukoc is often used against Michael Jordan as far as Michael Jordan playing with all these Hall of Famers. Right. So they'll often bring up Tony Kukoc, who is a very good player, no doubt about it. But let's be very clear here. Tony Kukoc is in the Hall of Fame due mostly to his international career. That's mostly where he was recognized and why he's in the Hall of Fame. So when we think about players like this, the Hall of Fame in general, the bar is very low. When you think about something like the NFL Hall of Fame, for example, once again, I'm not saying it's the Football Hall of Fame, it's the NFL Hall of Fame, but the criteria is much more stringent. There were guys that I grew up watching, that I watched growing up, that I thought were going to be surefire first ballot Hall of Famers, that had to wait years and years and years. I watched Andre Reed. It took this man years and years and years to get to the Hall of Fame. I thought he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. So we understand that the NFL, their parameters and their standards are set much higher, which is why you respect being in the Hall of Fame in something like that. Right now, there are guys in the Hall of Fame, like my man Hoop Guy said, you see some guys in and some guys. Hey, listen, how the hell is Kevin Johnson not in the Hall of Fame, but they just put in Chauncey Billups? It doesn't make any sense. And that's no knock to Chauncey Billups. But when you go back in the history, like my man AOH said, are they going to make it political now? All of a sudden now Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer, but someone that Michael Jordan played against in the 1993 NBA Finals that we could count as a quote-unquote Hall of Famer, he didn't make a Hall of Fame. To me, Kevin Johnson was a greater player than a Chauncey Billups. Also a Tim Hardaway, who's in the Hall of Fame, but Kevin Johnson's not somehow. So we don't know, like you said, who's a Hall of Famer, who's not a Hall of Famer, because now the parameters are all over the place.
Yeah, so I got a question to follow up just with this whole thing. So, and this goes back to the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, and to the thumbnail at hand that's on the video. If LeBron James has had all of these Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers on his team, why wasn't he as successful as Michael Jordan? Robin, what's your take on that?
Who was
LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, but LeBron James has all of these future Hall of Famers on his team. Why was he not as successful as Michael Jordan?
It's the classic case that we've all been talking about. It's one of the biggest narratives surrounding LeBron James is the idea that he makes the players around him better, or somehow he maximizes them to a higher degree than anyone else in history. That's one of the most glaring, obvious things you can tell. Think about some of the guys that Michael Jordan, the first three-peat, just think about that Chicago Bulls team. I'm telling you right now, there's no way in hell that LeBron James wins 3 championships in a row with B.J. Armstrong, John Paxson as his point guards, and a young, say developing Scottie Pippen, a Horace Grant, who's not going to give you anything but a solid 10-10 or 12-12, and a Bill Cartwright, a center who demands nothing down low. No one respects Bill Cartwright down low. None of these things. And once again, a young coach, like you guys mentioned earlier, is he going to listen to a young Phil Jackson? Is he really going to let Phil Jackson do his thing and really be coachable? These are all the things that we must think about. So that's the problem. LeBron James has had all the help, but the problem is he has not maximized these guys who got the most out of him.
Hoopga, what's your take on all that?
No, I mean, sports and fitness rants is absolutely right. We've seen LeBron James' style of play. We see that he monopolizes the ball, so therefore he's going to clash with Phil Jackson. We see that LeBron James, I mean, what is the term they call him now? Bagless bronze. So we know he's not going to be the go-to guy in the fourth quarter. And I'm not talking about the last 2 minutes. I'm saying when you need a guy when there's like 6 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock to extend the lead, to stop the bleeding. Well, he's not that guy. But it's amazing how when the team is up by 15, he'll take a logo 3, just the front run, like Skip Bayless loves to say. That's gonna be a direct clash because now it's like who are you gonna go to in the fourth quarter? But then you have to look at it like you have to be coachable. You have to be able to do other things outside of just scoring because that's to me is just the 10% of the game. The other 90% are all the other things. Are you setting hard picks? Are you diving for those loose 50-50 balls? Are you inspiring your teammates even though they may be struggling? Like how are you motivating them? Are you saying, hey, bro, don't worry about it. Next play mentality. Or are you over here doing this? You showing them up. I mean that. Body language, that can affect your teammates, positively, negatively. And I've just never seen that with him, to be quite honest. Playing in that system in Miami, I mean, of course, you got somebody like Dwayne Wade who can essentially create his own offense. I can't give you credit for that. You got a guy like Chris Bosh who can do the same thing, essentially create his own offense, but also can, give you 20 and 10. I mean, Chris Bosh was like 9th in scoring before they came together. You're not making him better. Another thing I noticed, with LeBron James, he gets stats, right? But his teams are never in the top 5 in passing because he holds the ball. So that's not going to allow your teammates to thrive. Unlike who? Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. They customarily would finish top 3, top 5 in passes per game because they played a team style. That's what I have to try to explain to these kids out here, but they just refuse to listen to facts. And I tell them, Larry Bird does not dominate the ball like LeBron James, and he still gave you 6 assists per game. Why? He played in a team style offense, and I'm not even mentioning the hockey assists. When you can create your own, you can create a play for somebody else based off the gravity that you have on the floor, and then your teammate can kick it down to somebody else to take a good shot and make it a greater shot. But he doesn't think like that because it's all about him. Just like I was telling you guys earlier before we got started. When I heard the commentator say he's shooting 60% from the field, I said he's not going to shoot the ball anymore because he has to make sure his stats look good, even if it comes at the expense of his team. And that is the polar opposite of Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or Larry Bird, or Tim Duncan, Bill Russell. I mean, the list goes on. So, no, he would not have thrived with Phil Jackson, just like AOH said. They would have said, oh, he's some acid-drinking hippie, blah, blah. What is a triangle? This guy is crazy. But now we see what the triangle ultimately led to, so they can't say that. Then they'll pivot and say, oh, well, LeBron never played for a great coach. Okay. He had a chance to play for Phil in 2010 and go to Miami. And Spoelstra's a great coach. He had a chance to go play for Popovich in 2015. No, he went to Cleveland. Not to mention, David Blatt was 19 games over 500. Have you guys ever heard of being number 1 in their conference, 19 games over 500 and still get fired? 2018, he had a chance to go play for Pop again. What does he do? He goes to the Lakers. So I asked him if he's never played for a great coach by their logic. He's had 3 opportunities to do it, but he's chose to go elsewhere.
Yep.
That's not the coach's fault. Okay, so no, I don't believe he would have thrived with Phil Jackson because, again, to play in that triangle or the Golden State system, no, you have to buy into the system. And ultimately, LeBron James, his style of play, he marginalizes his teammates. He makes his teammates adjust to his playing style versus him adjusting to them, which is what the great ones do. So no, he would not have thrived with Phil.
So Nick, what do you have to say about all that? And just to remind the chat too, what we were talking about. What's your take on the Michael Jordan and LeBron James? If you compare the future Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers on their teams, and why LeBron James wasn't as successful as Michael Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be kind of simple with this. My biggest knock on the whole Jordan and LeBron comparison is mainly LeBron is not the two-way player that Jordan was. A, I'll say that. But B, LeBron is just never been the best at anything, right? What is his go-to? What is his pedigree that he has? He's only led the league twice ever in any category. One time in points, one time in assist, right? But again, whenever you're just a 6'9" linebacker, right? I mean, his bag is just going to dunk or shooting a step back three, right? He can't manufacture offense. I think he's overrated as a passer just because, again, as Hoop Guy kind of pointed out, he has the ball so much, he's going to get more assists, right? He can't. I don't really see him ever initiate an offense. What is he the best at, right? And with Michael, it was clear he could put the clamps on you and he'd get you 30 points, right? I mean, it was that's what it was every game, every time, right? And with LeBron, you think about these big moments, right? Kyrie hits the shot, Ray Allen hits the shot. He's third in his team in scoring in 2011, right, during the playoffs. Wade essentially carries him. He scores 6 points one game. His legacy is that block on Iguodala and the one time they beat the Warriors, right? It's just I just the pedigree with him and Jordan, he is not the same. He is just not on that level, right? He is an athletic freak. He's definitely talented, right? He'll fill the stat box, but like, what is he the best at? And I just don't see anything, right? I just don't see it. Again, he's just an accumulative athlete, in my opinion, right? Great career, great legacy, but with this whole why didn't he win as much as Jordan? It's just there's another level to it, right? And I just don't think LeBron's ever gotten there.
Anyway, what's your take on all this?
LeBron has a long list of great players to go through when you try and dig into these numbers. But the whole LeBron spread offense thing, where all these great players come in and then get reduced to being a shell of themselves in order to try and make it easier for LeBron to score, this is reflected in their numbers. Out of that insanely long list of players that LeBron has had, there's like one or two cases that I found where anyone's numbers stayed the same or went up a tiny tick. Everyone else has gone down. You know, everyone has suffered by joining him. I don't know where anyone gets this idea that LeBron makes his teammates better from, other than repeating what they're told to think by the media. It's just shameful that people are that easily manipulated. There's nothing supporting it. You know, it's 5% of all of his Hall of Fame teammates or any great teammates that have ever had their numbers go up while playing with him. And even that was brief. That was a brief moment that happened. And I got to get this off my chest. I want to talk about last night again. I mean, how can I not? I'm riding high from that. But you know what I heard was, D'Angelo Russell was 6 for 20. Guess who was 6 for 20 against the Pelicans and got praised for it? LeBron got praised for 6 for 20 against the Pelicans, and D'Angelo Russell is annihilated for it. And then they're talking about, the Nuggets have the greatest starting lineup. Well, why did the Nuggets have Caldwell Pope instead of the Lakers? That's LeBron's fault. You know, stick with some people, develop, see what will happen instead of trying to bring in all of these Hall of Famers who you immediately take away all the good that they can bring to your team.
Real fast, Sandman Morrison went and he gave a super chat to somebody. He didn't say, again, for people in the chat, please say who you're super chatting, because this is streaming across all of our channels, and it doesn't say who it's going to. Please say who you're super chatting. I guess Robin.
Real quick, can I add something to that? He was talking about the Pelicans too, right? And D'Angelo Russell. I believe in that Pelicans game too. LeBron had a couple air balls, a couple turnovers, a couple bad passes, and D'Angelo Russell bailed him out. D'Angelo Russell hit a couple big threes, if I remember right there, in the last couple minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's just I wanted to bring that up real quick. It's the Pelicans. the last couple minutes, man, were not pretty from LeBron. It was pretty ugly to watch.
Hey, NMB, did y'all see that dunk he had at the end of the game? Now they were already winning, but he has to be a front runner, right? So where was that same energy and effort when he threw that turnover and he couldn't even chase down Jokic? Like that fast break took 2 minutes. LeBron, you couldn't chase him down?
You talk about that dunk against the Grizzlies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that, man. I hate guys. That's what I'm saying. When Jordan, it's like everyone's tough when they're up and shit, right? I hate that too.
Exactly. Well, I'm like, wait a minute. With all due respect to Jokic, that fast break took 2 minutes, and you could not chase him down and get the block. That's his signature move.
That's fun.
So this was for Sam Morrison super chatted AOH. So do you have anything to say about this AOH? I've been saying LeBron is the Milli Vanilli of the NBA for $5 US.
Yeah. Well, geez, what can you add to that? I used Milli Vanilli in a video making fun of LeBron James, so I'm on board with you there.
That's funny.
So I wanted to add to all of this the Hall of Famers with LeBron versus Michael Jordan, and it kind of piggybacking off of what AOH said is just because you have all these names and you have all these faces and you put them all on the same team doesn't mean it's going to be successful, especially when you go and you trade them out practically every year. There's no team development. There's nothing progressing the team forward to actually win other than let's just put the best faces together. So this is kind of in contrast to what was said a little bit by some of the people here is that, I don't think just having the best players on the same team is going to win you a championship. And I think that's very evident recently with LeBron James and his collection of super teams. And even in history, you do it with even with the 76ers. They won the one time in '83, but they had that team together for quite a long time, and they only finished it once. Or the Lakers. Now, granted, there was no trades, particularly with the Lakers time with the free agency, with the Jerry Wests and the Elgin Baylor. All of that, a super team put together, and they didn't win. They still lost to Russell. They had great a team on paper, but doesn't match up. And I think that's ultimately what the issue is. Why LeBron James didn't win is because even though Michael Jordan had on paper a not as good team per player, they did a lot better, were a lot more successful because they had chemistry. They actually were a team. So this is the follow-up question. All of this is, Robin, what do you think is more important? And I know this was mentioned a few times before, the actual team chemistry or the talent. To you, what if you had to choose one, would you rather have team chemistry or an overabundance of talent?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go with the chemistry and the cohesion because that's kind of the way that I grew up watching. So, when we think about these kinds of things, this is what I was alluding to earlier. See, when people try, once again, it's the same thing. I hate to say the same thing. People will often say Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were always the favorite to win. They were the favorites. But they fail to mention, oftentimes when they're saying the Bulls were the favorites, really what they're doing is actually giving more props to Michael Jordan because that was the reason why they were the favorites. Because of Michael Jordan's greatness, the way that he exhibited himself on the basketball court. He was known for what? Being the kind of guy that the Bulls were down late in the game, Michael Jordan had a reputation for bringing the Bulls back. That was his MO early in his career. So when people talk about being the favorite and things of this nature, man, what are they often alluding to? They're talking about what? Vegas is picking them Bulls to win? Is that what we're saying? Why would Vegas pick against Michael Jordan? They're not idiots. They're trying to make some money, right? They know the deal, man. And they always knew that Michael Jordan developed that MO, man, to bring the Bulls back to, like I said, be known as a closer, man, to come back. He's the guy who's known for maximizing his teammates, things of that nature, man. So when we talk about all this Hall of Fame stuff and this guy had these players with him and this guy had that player with him, it's not the same thing, man. Because once again, what I just talked about before, you have the talent on the team. These guys that I grew up watching, they were known for playing together for years and years and years to develop that chemistry with each other. So it was like they knew where each other were going to be, so to speak, man. That's what made John Stockton and Karl Malone so hard to beat. This is why teams didn't want to face them. You think about the Los Angeles Lakers in the late 90s with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel and some of the talent that they had in the team, right? But they didn't have the cohesion, the chemistry, right? The precision of the John Stockton, the Karl Malone tandem. So you remember hearing Phil Jackson saying that he didn't want the Lakers to have to face them in the postseason because they were so difficult to beat, right? We think about the 2011 Mavericks, man. Like, yes, maybe these guys don't have the cohesion or the chemistry from playing all those years together, let's say, so to speak, or having that foundation. But what those guys have, the reason why they were tough to beat was the veteran savvy from all the years in the NBA. So I'd rather have that kind of play than just the talent per se. You know what I'm saying?
Real fast. There's a super chat. It was given to me, but it's for Robin. So thank you for super chatting me. But the question is for Robin from the lowly one. He says, correct me if I'm wrong on my math. 4 out of 10 in the finals in percentage form is 40%, right? If we all remember, school isn't 40% a failing grade. What do you have to say about that?
Yo, much respect to the lowly one. Thank you very much for support, everybody out there, man, for real, for supporting our live streams. But yeah, absolutely. But see, that's the problem, right? They always excuse LeBron James's losses. So really, in actuality, he's really 4-0. He's not 4-6 to the LeBron James fans and to the media because he's always given an excuse. Like you guys were alluded to, my man AOH alluded to for last night. They're already blaming D'Angelo Russell. All the excuses already cocked back and loaded, man. Remember, I always tell you guys here, man, LeBron James in a win-win situation. When the Lakers win, when his team wins, it's all LeBron James. He carried them there. But when they lose, it's never his fault. It's the coach's fault. It's the other role players' fault, man. So the lowly one's right on the money. He might have a 40% win percentage, but they never talk about that. They only talk about the times he won, and they always excuse his losses.
Dark, I got to jump in or I'm going to explode here.
Okay. All right, go for it.
So at the beginning of the game, you know how the announcers will just praise LeBron every second that they have. And, you know, LeBron was making his layups in the no pressure situation. And I'm thinking, okay, I hope you guys keep talking about this in the fourth, because I already knew what was going to happen in the fourth. That's the difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan in a nutshell by itself. We don't even have to go further than that. Because what did LeBron do that entire fourth? He tried to pass off to other people. You don't have a guy that you can rely on to lift you and bring you past the adversity. If the Nuggets are on a run, is LeBron James going to bring the Lakers back to compete with that run? No. But you will have him point the finger at why his teammates couldn't do it. And you know what the announcers will do? They're like, well, LeBron James scored for 3 quarters. Why couldn't the teammates do something in the fourth? You're supposedly the GOAT. Fucking do it all 4 quarters, or at a minimum, do it in the fourth. When your team needs a leader, someone who isn't afraid of the moment. The guy is so afraid of the moment and is so ready to put it on other people. Michael was not that guy. He was not afraid of that moment. And you know what else? Why didn't, you talked about that 2-minute fast break. Twice with LeBron's turnovers, LeBron failed to chase down Jokic. And listen, you don't have to get a chase down block every time, but commit a foul. Would it kill you to commit a foul? Because Jokic getting that dunk was big, and even that half dunk beforehand. You know what? Sending Jokic to the free throw line does not have the same impact for lifting the Nuggets' morale as just letting Jokic go ahead and get those shots. Those dunks were huge. Commit a foul, dude. Slow down the Nuggets. No, he wants to protect his stats. He wants to look good at the end instead of doing what's necessary for the team to win.
I just got a one-liner. I swear he's trying to catch one of Wilt's no foul records that's out there lately. But
why is that even something to be proud of?
Yeah. What's up?
I wanted to quickly, hearing you guys talk, I wanted to restructure what I said earlier, right? to be devil's advocate, right, of this argument, not of LeBron, but of the argument. If we look at LeBron team hopping, though, right? If we take like from the decision, correct? He did go chase to go play with other Hall of Famers, and he went to 9 straight finals and won 3, right? But I think what you guys are saying, and the other side of the argument is, you will always play other Hall of Famers in the playoffs, in the conference finals, and in the finals, right? So simply just joining up with other talent and other Hall of Famers is not the X factor to get you to win rings, right? It ultimately is who plays the best brand of basketball, correct? And as we kind of have noted, LeBron's lost more than he's won, right? But the thing about having the Hall of Fame argument is, as you get to the first round, the second round, the third round, every team's going to have a Hall of Famer or 2 or 3 or more on it these days, right? So, yes, like it is sort of this talent does raise your floor and your ceiling. I don't think anyone argues that, right? And talent ultimately probably gets you in the Hall of Fame, but you always play talent. You always play Hall of Famers, right? So simply just joining up with other talent is not good enough to ultimately get to the pinnacle, right? I think that's how I would restructure what I said earlier.
Well, I just one thing I wanted to say real fast is what drives me crazy, and not to say that you believe this, Nick, is that when they always mention LeBron's championships, they'll go and they'll say 4 and 6 to qualify how many times he went there, as that if the 4 it doesn't just matter in itself. When you hear about all these other superstars, most of the time they mention the wins primarily, and they don't amplify the losses to make them great. Right, Robin, were you about to say something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say something, but go ahead, keep going.
No. I mean, that's more or less it. It just drives me crazy when you go and it seems like that's the qualifying measure of how to make LeBron the GOAT is because of his finals losses. It seems like that's more important than his finals wins.
Yeah, I mentioned my pet peeve last week or whatever it was, how LeBron fans just look at the accumulation. It's like, don't look at turnovers, don't look at losses and big moments, right? So I'm with you on that one. That was not, again, I didn't mean that to be a LeBron argument. It's just that he's sort of the antagonist of this argument, right? But if we look at him team hopping other Hall of Famers, right? I mean, seems to be a pretty high floor, right? But you always play other talent, right? So it's not good enough on itself.
Yeah. Did you want to add something, Robin, or no?
No, I was just gonna say, like when we're talking about LeBron James and the talent that you play with or the talent you don't play with, I think it all comes back to the fundamental point that we've had a problem with from the start. Which is why a lot of us made our YouTube channels or we make videos, man. It's because all of a sudden now it's become about the names on the back of the jersey and stuff, right? So to speak. So what I mean is, like, this is where we get the term the plumbers and the taxi cab drivers, right? These guys, the conversations that are being had now, all of a sudden there was no talent back in the day, and only the guys that we know today, that these people know today, now it's all of a sudden about, like I said, the name on the back of the jersey. So they'll always talk about Michael Jordan playing against these slow and athletic white guys, and then they'll show a player or a picture of Michael Jordan being guarded by some player that maybe nobody knows or maybe they're not familiar with. You know what I'm saying? So these are the problems that, like I said, I always have a problem with, is these arguments about guys in quote-unquote Hall of Fame and these great players. Because, like I said, they want to use it both ways. Someone said something in the chat about, oh, no one says these things, or these are casual arguments that we're talking about. And sometimes people, when I make my videos, people try to make it seem as if I'm fabricating a narrative just to make a video off of it. Like, oh, I heard this and I'm lying. No, these are the narratives that are being talked about on the national television. Nick Wright himself often calls these guys names, often downplays the previous eras, often talks about some of these narratives about the Hall of Famers that LeBron James went against, but he never wants to talk about the players that he played with. And then they'll use the same hypocrisy for Michael Jordan. So what will they say? Dennis Rodman made the Chicago Bulls a super team in 1996. But in 1991, when Michael Jordan beat that very same Dennis Rodman when he was 5 years younger, somehow, some way, they were not a super team, the Detroit Pistons. They were all old now. So this is what we're talking about. They're trying to use these narratives in both scenarios. So they use it to favor LeBron James. He played against all these guys, and he didn't play with anyone, right? He never had any help. but Michael Jordan played against nobody. But somehow, some way, in that same era, Scottie Pippen was the second coming of Jesus Christ. He was the greatest player of all time, the greatest all-around player in the NBA. They'll tell you when Michael Jordan left. This is where they've elevated these people to, man, and this is the problem.
Robin, case in point, not only are we not making this stuff up, I will refer back to Sports Illustrated putting out like a 5-page piece called Waste Management, telling the world that the Lakers are ruining LeBron's last years. And one of the things that they pointed out is that LeBron has to start over and learn to play with all these new players. Like, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
LeBron James will not keep the young drafted talent and learn how to play with them because he wants guys that are in their primes right now to come in and carry the load. And whether it's a young guy that you won't work with or develop, or a Hall of Famer who you also aren't going to work around, you're going to make them change for you. Both ways points to LeBron James being unable to be part of the system with other players. And yet you have Sports Illustrated ignoring all those facts in order to make it look like LeBron James is the one who's suffering, when in fact the Lakers have given away all their assets to accommodate him.
Yep. No, it's absolutely crazy. Do any of you want to talk about anything else specifically around this subject? And I want to front load this for asking if you want to do this subject if you guys are available next week. Is this LeBron's last year? Is he going to retire, or should he retire? Do y'all want to talk about that next week?
Yeah, I'm down.
So
I think all of us will be no, he won't, but yes, he should.
So I wanted to come back to what you guys were discussing because I wanted to also chime in on this too. The thing is, like AOH said, no, he does not have the ability to make anybody better because I mean let's be honest. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he hasn't gotten any better. Like he does not have a consistent go-to pull-up jump shot, from the mid-range, i.e. the high elbow. He has horrible footwork. I mean, when he did play Miami after that 1 year he trained with Hakeem, to me, that was the most complete version of himself. But he's so intent on playing his style, which is why they got obliterated in the 2014 finals. When I went back and I actually just watched it, with the information that I have available now, I'm like, yo, why is this guy not going to the post? Like, why is he not trying to get in the in-between game and pull up? Like, he's literally settling for wide open threes or trying to get to the goal. And I'm like, bro, the Spurs, that's a well-oiled machine. Like, they're the closest thing to the Terminator in the 90s. Like, they're not going to make any mistakes. And the way you're playing, you're not helping your team. But I was just looking up some things while you guys were going over everything pertaining to this topic. Now, we know that the 80s Lakers and Celtics were customarily finished top three, sometimes like 1 and 2 in assists per game en route to the finals. But then I was looking at, because I wanted to actually look at Kobe and MJ. Now, what stood out to me is that first three-peat, because I haven't looked at all of them, but I saw in that first three-peat, the Bulls were no lower than 3 in assists per game for a team, right? But again, like Sports and Fitness Rant said, what is the narrative? Oh, Michael Jordan and Kobe are just shot chuckers and they just shoot the ball, blah, blah, blah. But they both led their team in assists, during their championship run. So that's not adding up. But then I went a little further. The Lakers in 08-09, they were second in assists per game and total assists team-wise. Only the Utah Jazz. The reason why I'm bringing that up is I'm going to go back and I'm going to research it. But so far, I have not found a LeBron James-led team that was either top 1 or 2 in assists for a team. Now, I got to check the Miami Heat, but I know in Cleveland, he was never amongst that tier. So, again, this is further proof that he does what? Monopolizes the ball, does not get his team involved. He cannot elevate other players like Michael Jordan elevated Tony Kukoc to win 6th Man of the Year. He can't elevate other players like Kobe Bryant elevated Trevor Ariza and Lamar Odom, who won 6th Man of the Year. So, again, I always ask, what player did LeBron James raise their level of talent who wasn't already established? Because I have not found none.
Yeah. Excuse me. Real fast, we got some more super. Excuse me. We got some more super chats that came in. The lowly one sent me another super chat, and he addressed it to me. He said, "Facts. That's why I say 4 out of 10 and not 4 to 6." Strangely enough, 4 to 6 ratio in percentage form is 66.67. Not a good number. And yeah, just not to spend too much longer on it, but thank you for the $5 super chat. 2, why don't they say that about guys like Kareem? I mean, sometimes they'll say it about Russell, but just to emphasize that he went to one more finals. But why don't they say 6 for 4 for Kareem? They don't. They just say 6 because it doesn't make any sense to glorify the losses when you're not number one, just to amplify how many more you went to. And the whole thing with LeBron is, again, they make it seem like the losses are more important than the wins because he didn't win nearly as much as other guys, to include Michael Jordan, who they put him up against all the time because he's the latest and the greatest. He does, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve to be in that conversation. He's one of the greatest of all time, but not in real GOAT contention. It's not even close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't get it because, like, speaking for me, I never think about 2006 ever. Never comes to my mind. I never bring it up. I never think about it.
Yeah. And then we got 2 more. I believe these are both for AOH, or the one is for AOH as a question. From the Salmon Morrison again. For AOH, in 20 years, LeBron has never worked on his game. That is the difference between LeBron, MJ, and Kobe. What do you have to say about that?
You know, I was thinking about this. You wonder if it's people who have it too easy too soon. You get a little bit spoiled. If you didn't have to work from the beginning, the way MJ actually got cut from the varsity team, and he'd go home crying, and his family said, "Well, get better." And if you are able to athleticism early on and get away with that, rather than develop your game, and no one really calls you out for it at any point along your journey, then yeah, you're not gonna work on your game. Well, I would like to think that as a professional athlete, you would work on every aspect of your game, no matter how much praise you get. But he didn't, and that's a real character flaw. How do you not work on your game as a professional athlete?
Yeah,
thank you for the super thanks.
Yeah,
I can use these.
Pet peeves is guys who don't develop their game, like Dwight Howard or something. I absolutely hate that.
And then we got another super chat. This is directed for Sports and Fitness Rants. Robin, I believe that it probably, or I don't, Recipes with Reed. If you can say who you sent it to, that'd be great as well. But the question is directed to Robin. This is the 9th game LeBron has lost in a row to an unathletic white plumber in Jokic. MJ never lost that many in a row to anyone. What do you have to say about that?
Yo, shout out to Recipes with Reed coming through once again for the support. Thank you for supporting the live stream, guys. And like I said, standing up to the lies and the narratives. And those are the facts. This is what we're talking about. All of a sudden now, all the white guys that I watched growing up, man, they're just plumbers. They're unathletic white guys. But the white guys today, who are they? These are the greatest athletes of all time, Nikola Jokic? No, man. Because once again, the guys back in the day that I watched growing up, man, those same white guys, they played with the effort, the heart, the grit, the intensity, man. So these are the things that they don't talk about in this era. So shout out to Recipes with Reed, because once again, man, these guys want to make it about the color of people's skin now. That has something to do with guys' basketball skills all of a sudden. I never remembered that, man. Listen, I grew up in New York City, man, with all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of people playing basketball, man. All right? And if you ever thought somebody wasn't good at basketball because of their background or even the way they looked, man, you were in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. All right. Do any of you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we start taking callers for a little bit?
Special request. Somebody send me a super thanks to buy my lovely lady here a drink, because she's driving me around so I can do this. And then we're heading out to celebrate that Nuggets win. Smile.
Yo, much respect. Much respect.
Shout out to Miss AOH.
All right.
Mrs. Angry Old Hoop Fan.
Mrs. Angry Old Hoop Fan.
Yeah, I got something to say real quick, man. Because we got some idiot in the chat, man. Some guy, Duke Blaylock, some moron, some idiot saying some nonsensical things. So let me educate him real quick. First, I don't understand why you fools are in the chat and you talk about we don't know this or we're lying about that, but you continue to come back to the chat. But he was saying something that we lied on here about LeBron James not developing his game. And then he proceeds to talk about some nonsense about, oh, this guy LeBron James shoots over 40% from the three-point range, but you guys want to talk about he hasn't developed his game, blah, 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 blah. Once again, LeBron James shooting 40% from three does nothing, man. You guys must not understand the game of basketball and the kinds of shots that LeBron James allowed to shoot out there. This man's literally standing and walking right into these three-point shots. But nonetheless, how many times has LeBron James airballed these three-point shots? How many times has LeBron James hit the side of the backboard on these shots? Many, many times over. If LeBron James really developed his overall jump shot, his overall game, then why is this man can't shoot from the free throw line still? How many free throws has LeBron James shot? So my man Duke Blaylock, I don't know what you're talking about. LeBron James' overall game has nothing changed, man. The man is allowed to what? Manipulate the rules of basketball. Because once again, how many games has LeBron James had this season alone where he had 0 fouls? He played over 30 minutes in the game, but he had 0 fouls. So somehow, some way, LeBron James allowed to drive the lane, lower his shoulder, use his off arm, but no fouls are called against LeBron James. 0 fouls. But as soon as anyone grazes LeBron James, this man goes flying into the third row. They're blowing the whistle. He's allowed to shoot his free throws. The appointed case last night, the Denver Nuggets, they shot 6 free throws. The defending champion Denver Nuggets on their home floor shot 6 free throws, and the Los Angeles Lakers shot 19. It's not even comparable, man. LeBron James, his entire career, has been one big laughingstock because he has not developed the game. So Duke Blaylocks, do me a favor, man. I dare you right now to go put yourself on camera, tag me in the video, and explain to me what game LeBron James has developed over his career. Explain to me his go-to move, and don't you talk to me about no damn FU3. Don't talk to me about that nonsense, man. Break it down to me. He has not developed his game over the years, and you know he hasn't.
Two things.
Oh, go ahead.
Some lag.
Uh-oh.
I was gonna say, yeah, LeBron's only shot 41% this year. So in literally the last year or two of his career, he finally figured out how to shoot over 40% from three. Like, just not buying it, man.
Will he do it next year?
Hey, wait,
Is he gonna have-
you like that?
No, it's an anomaly.
Will he-
It's a statistical anomaly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one good year.
If he has one bright season, did he develop his game, or is it a one-off? And when is he going to start taking those shots when there's no?
He's only
time
one
left
other
on the shot?
time shot over 40% and essentially never got over 37 or 38 any other year, once or twice. So
When
yeah,
does he shot over 80% from the free throw line? The man can't sniff 80% from the free throw line, but he's a shooter now. We want to talk about LeBron James being a shooter. Get out of here, man. The sun shines on LeBron James' ass every once in a while, man. He ain't no shooter. You want LeBron James shoot from three at the end of a game? Hell no.
Hey, so I wanted to chime in real quick. He's bringing up 40% like that's a flex. Let me make a comparison, right? Draymond Green is shooting 40% from three this year. That's not a flex. Not only is it not a flex, but we can go look and see how many contested.
That's my man.
3-point shots he's shooting. He's not even shooting contested threes. So what are you talking about, Dookie Blaylocks? And like Sports and Fitness Rant said, how come you can't shoot free throws? You're telling me that you can shoot better from three, which is further out, than you can closer to the goal with nobody bothering you, with all eyes on you? Oh, I forgot. He can't handle pressure. Pressure busts pipes. But then if we go to his career, he's still under the three-point percentage from the league average. He's still under that percentage. So what are you talking about? You're trying to hype up 1 year that he's shooting 40% with Draymond Green matching you with the same efficiency. That's not a flex. Please stop.
real quick, guys, I gotta go. I gotta dip out. Pray. I need everyone to pray for the Mavericks. 2:30 today, Central Time.
No, I got money. I got money on the Mavs. We winning this thing, bro. I got money on the Mavs.
Go. I gotta go though. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all next Sunday.
Yo, Nick, be good, man. Yo, good luck to the Mavericks.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Yep. If y'all like what Nick had to say, go subscribe to his channel. All right. Yeah. For the 40%, you know what? It's great that he's doing better, but to what all y'all are saying, it's a shot. And what Robin is saying too with the free throws, that is the easiest. I don't want to say it's the easiest thing. I'm not a pro, but to me, that's the easiest thing to get down right because you have no contest outside of your head to go shoot that shot. So why, that's the easiest thing to get better at. Why aren't you getting better at that? The 3-point shot, great. He worked on it. He's had a better percentage this year. But yeah, I don't really buy it all the way that's the only thing that he improved his game on, because I feel like that's the point that Duke Baylox is trying to make, is that's what he improved. So that's one thing. What else did he improve so drastically?
It reminds me of those guys who say, "How can you say he has no bag when they have a highlight reel put together for him? Who can you not put together a highlight reel for in the NBA? I mean, everybody in the NBA has had great nights, great games, great plays, and you know what? How many people in the NBA have probably had a season that weren't even three-pointers?
Hey, do y'all know Michael Jordan's 3-point percentage in the finals is higher than LeBron, but somehow he's a better shooter?
Word, for real.
Right.
That's another thing I don't like to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have anything else to say before we let callers on? And for the callers that call in, just because it's happened so many times and we've had some bad instances, I don't let you free talk. I let you call in and ask a question, because it just devolves into arguments and nobody can talk, and it just derails the show. So if you want to call in,
apologize again.
Oh, it's not. It's the callers.
It's
keep
me,
fighting.
man. Just say it. It's me. They sports and fitness rants don't know how to act. He be getting crazy. He be yelling at people, man. And he does nonsensical things. It's okay. I understand.
Y'all have anything else to say before I drop the link, or
drop it?
I got to bounce in like 5 minutes. Just FYI.
Yeah. I do too.
Okay. Drop the link. All right. Here we go. I've dropped the link. It's easiest to come on to my show if you'd like to call in, or my channel. And if you like what I've had to say, please subscribe on the way in. But other than that, you would have to type it in. But it's easier if you come to my channel and just click the link and then get on it. But I've dropped it. That's a beautiful view, AOH.
Tiburon.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw a chat in here from Showtime 666. Yeah, he said the thumbnail is misleading, that Michael Jordan played with more Hall of Famers. I do know that. It's really just for dramatic purposes. but it is, in respect to the argument, a lot of people, I think most people would agree that on paper, Michael Jordan played with a lot less talent than LeBron did. So that's the point. But yes, he had George Gervin. That I think George Gervin wasn't on that, amongst others, but one of the big ones.
I mean, are we going to count Robert Parrish? Come on.
Yeah.
When he was 95, he was 95 years old.
That's how desperate they are. They got to be that desperate to count Robert Parrish and George Gervin. Okay, at that time,
you the one you went out or not?
Welcome, Jim. How are you today?
Jim, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing?
All right.
Great. Go check out Self-Researched NBA Facts if y'all like to see some interest or new and interesting takes on NBA Facts. Anyway,
YouTube just suggested that channel to me.
Yep.
Hey, yeah. On this topic you guys are talking about, the Hall of Famers. The way that I always took it was that this is something that the Nick Wrights and all the media would always bring up when trying to point out that technically he played against more Hall of Famers than Michael Jordan. Doesn't matter if Jason Kidd was 37, 7 points a game. That does not matter. It only matters that he was a Hall of Famer and he was on the team. That's all they go by. And it's ridiculous. I don't see how that. Sean Kemp finished 8th in MVP in 96, but because he's not a Hall of Famer, Kidd is a higher grade player in the finals than Kemp. Stupid, right?
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. That's really my whole point. So anyway, that's all I was going to say. I mean, I think Rob got, he was on that. He know what that was all about. Just the damn media always brings that up. It's not the quality of the Hall of Famer or the age of them. It doesn't matter. They just want to count Hall of Famers. Anything to prop the boy up.
Right.
Jim, isn't it interesting that Michael could have more Hall of Famers, yet LeBron's top 75 list eclipses Jordan's? Something seems wrong there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you never hear him bring that up. And man, when Kukoc became a Hall of Famer, I mean, Tony Kukoc in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, what are we doing? And then I bring up to people, I said, well, Vlade Divac is in the Hall of Fame. Jordan played against him in 91, so we're gonna count him, I guess. It's all just so stupid, but you go by the record, Michael Jordan's competition was actually better than LeBron James's, in the finals. So again, but they won't talk about record, only Hall of Famers. That's why it's just stupid narrative. And like I always point out to him, though, the major difference, Jordan didn't lose. LeBron lost to those teams. Hall of Famers or not, Jordan never lost. So that's always the major difference that, they don't want to talk about that either, but that's about it. Oh, AOH, somebody suggested me if you get a chance, I put out a video about the 98 All-Star game and how Jordan was just so outmatched by all the talent that the other team had. And anyway, if you get a chance, if you would want to just take a look and, do your normal breakdown of that particular game, how Jordan, they won the game and he got the MVP at 35 against that stacked West roster. Anyway, that's it.
Is it a reaction to your video, or you want me to go look at the original game?
No. Yeah, you don't have to bring me up at all. Just you doing it.
All right.
He's talking about the game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like I said, somebody brought it up. It's like, hey, if you happen to talk to AOH, and I was like, all right, well, I'll see if I talk to him this week, and I'll just mention it to him. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. That's it, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Yo, thanks a lot, Jim. Yo, much respect, man. Be good.
You got it, man. You guys too. All of you.
Absolutely, Jim. Have a great day.
You too.
Yep. All right. Drop. The link has been dropped. Jim is the only one who's called in so far. So I'll leave it up for a bit. But yeah. I guess while we're waiting, do any one of you believe that the Lakers are going to win this series?
Hell, as long as the refs stay out of it, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. To me, the Denver Nuggets are just a better team. So yeah, I don't. I mean, listen, if the Lakers won, it would have to be something miraculous, But yeah, I would definitely bet. I would bet on the Nuggets if I was a betting man.
Yeah, barring anything catastrophic, no. Because what I saw, even when the Lakers went on a run, like I'm looking at the Nuggets' body language. Nobody looked upset. Nobody looked like they were in panic mode. Nobody was out there taking ill-advised shots. And they just they methodically just walked them down. It kind of reminded me of a modified version of the Spurs and the Warriors, if that makes sense. Like Jokic is like a lesser version of Tim Duncan. Jamal Murray is like a lesser version of a Stephen Curry, and then everybody else, like they're contributing within the flow of the game. Like I'm not seeing KCP hit four threes, and then you got Reggie Jackson, getting his, he's getting his quality shots, and I'm seeing Jokic is just. Man, he was just carving them boys up with passes. And when he got LeBron or AD on them, straight to the goal. I mean, just big boy ball. I'm like, bro, this man is telling both of them, y'all can't guard me. Y'all too small. Hey, yo, this is my boy Thomas, man. What up, bro?
How you doing, Thomas? You got a question you want to pose? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, it's a fellow Tar Heel fan, by the way.
No. We can't hear you. It sounds like we could probably hear you. You're touching something and you can hear it. But yeah, we can't. Well, yeah, we can't hear you still. So just keep trying to get it. No volume.
Yeah, he may. Hey, you may.
Oh man, hey, can.
Oh, there you. Oh, there it is.
Man, I apologize for that, man. I gotta reset my other phone. But how y'all doing today, man?
Good. What's up?
Great, man. What's up?
Cool enough.
What are y'all favorite? What is everybody's Everybody's favorite Jordan moment, like from any moment in his career. What's your favorite?
Favorite Jordan moment? You want to go first, Robin?
Yeah, my favorite Jordan moment would probably have to be the first championship for me, man. That'd probably be the first championship. That would probably be my favorite Jordan moment.
Oh, you
Yep.
log out.
What about you, Hoop God?
Uh, I would say 92. Like, because the reason why I'm gonna say 92 is because what are we being inundated with today? Michael Jordan can't shoot threes. I'll go check out 92 finals. That's all I tell him. Go check out 92. I'm like, yo, the man, he set a record that didn't get broke until Ray Allen in 2010. So that was a standing record from 1992 all the way to 2010. Like, don't tell me this man can't shoot. But then I also have to give him context. Like, Michael Jordan was on record of saying, well, I don't necessarily like the three ball. He said, they asked why. He said, well, when you hit one, guess what? You want to take another one. And if they keep falling, guess what? You're not as aggressive as you used to be. He said, so the three ball is good. It's nice to have it in my tools or whatever. But ultimately, he said it takes away from my game. So I have to be judicious when I use it. But they don't understand that because today it's just shoot a three. Forget everything else.
Yeah, for me, I'd have to say coming back from the retirement, even though they didn't win that year, but just coming back, and for me personally, I was a young kid. I was around 10 at that time, so for me, it was super cool because the Space Jam movie came out, soon after that. For me personally, but as an adult looking back outside of the retirement, um, that's a tough one. I would probably say I'd probably have to say the end of probably the end of the '98 finals. Just cementing that second three-peat. To me, I think that really put him over the edge to be considered as the greatest of all time. So, but yeah, no, for me personally, it's coming back from retirement because that was super awesome.
Okay,
Um,
okay. For me, it was 91. And in 91, I was a 10-year-old, and I saw him and seeing him win his first championship after, him losing like in the playoffs and not making the finals, losing to better teams. Like it was a major accomplishment, in my opinion.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yo, me and you
absolutely.
on the same page, man. For me, 1991 is my favorite finals to rewatch over and over and over again. The way that Michael Jordan played in the 91 finals, man, a lot of people don't talk about it. It was the first one. It gets kind of lost in the shuffle of the greatness. But man, the way he played in 91 was crazy.
Yeah, what Pizza Time said. Yeah, Paxson he was an assassin, and I give John Paxson all the due credit. But yeah, Bill Jackson had to challenge Michael Jordan because y'all know he's a Zen master. He was like, "Well, Michael, they say you don't pass the ball, so how you gonna approach that, right?" So Michael goes out there and goes for 11.4 assists in that series, which is still second to Magic Johnson, like amongst players, not the assist average, but all the players. Because I think Magic, I think he got like 4 different finals where it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then it's MJ. Out of all the other players, it's like how is the guy who's got 10 scoring titles is second to Magic in an assist average in a final series? I said, wow. You can't tell me he didn't pass the ball and he wasn't a playmaker. But yeah, John Paxson was on fire in that series.
Well, that's one of those things that kills me about that narrative too, is that especially with the triangle offense, and even beforehand when he was playing with Doug Collins, is that he had played that stint as the point guard, but the triangle offense is based off of passing and motion. So how are you going to say that he doesn't pass the ball? That's the whole system he was in. Now, granted, he finished with the ball a lot. I'm not saying he didn't, but to say he had to have a mind to understand the triangle because I've heard before that people just are not smart enough to get it in today's NBA in the first place, and you have to pass the ball, you have to move the ball around. So, to me that kills me too. Um, but yeah, I've dropped the link a few more times. Timeless, you have anything else you want to talk about since nobody else has called in? You there?
Might have lagged out again.
Yeah. All right. Well, it seems like people aren't really calling in. So, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we start shutting this off, or Robin or Hoop God?
No, I think we're good, man.
Yeah.
I think like I said, man, it was a good live stream. A lot of people are probably watching I think the Celtics and the Heat are playing right now.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
I just want to say this, man. I have a problem with Bruin fans when they always want to bring up.
No,
Hey,
it's like it's lagged.
went out again, bro.
We missed the punchline.
When Braun fans lag, not that you're a Braun fan, but
Fans always saying that Jordan lost in the first round, but they never try to. They never take the time to research and do the context. I mean, the team was like loaded that they played against, and the team only lost one home game the whole season. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we hear you, Thomas. I'm gonna let Rob do this call, but yeah, no, I totally I agree with what you're saying. But thanks for calling in. We'll let Rob do this call, and we'll shut it off after this. But
All right, man. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yo, yeah, thanks for calling up.
Yep. All right, Rob, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Yep. Do you have a question for us, or?
Yeah, I was going to ask, who's all y'all's number two, and why do they fall short of your number one?
Okay. I guess I'll go first. So for me, my number two is Bill Russell. Why he falls short for me is because I try to, for me, I not to toot my own horn, but I think this is a holistic way to approach this. Is that hey, Rob, can you got a lot of background noise. I don't want to mute you, but can you stop the background noise? Okay. All right. I'm gonna mute you for a second, and then I'll unmute you when we're done. All right. So for me, I got Bill Russell, but I look at it as a holistic thing, or I like to think it as this, because most of the arguments that people have in sports are the statistical dominance, and then there's also the team success, and then there's the influence and impact on the game. So why Russell's number two for me is because I personally go and I value winning over everything else personally. So he's up there number two because he was just absolutely dominant. However, when you go and you look at Michael Jordan, he was the second most statistically dominant player of all time in regards to titles won in respect to scoring and steals. Number one is Wilt Chamberlain. So I had Michael Jordan is the second greatest statistically dominant player of all time. When you look at team leaders as winners, not guys that rode the bench or anything like that, Michael Jordan as a leader is either, if you count John Havlicek, then he's tied for third with Kareem. If you don't think John Havlicek deserves that, then he's second all time with Kareem behind Russell. And then I believe he's the most impactful and influential player of all time. So he's number one, in my opinion, by far for the NBA. So that's why I have Michael Jordan above Bill Russell, but I personally prefer team success. Robin, who's your number two and why is asked?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is an interesting, question or interesting conversation. What's number two or who's number two and why are they number two and what's the criteria to be number one. The thing about Michael Jordan, I think everyone needs to understand, when people try to say that we're hating on another player or this or that, let's understand where we are in society, right? Michael Jordan is recognized as the greatest basketball player of all time for whatever the reasons. The reasons are irrelevant. Whatever the reasons that people have for selecting Michael Jordan are irrelevant. Those are the facts. In society, Michael Jordan is recognized as that. Where's the evidence of this? Well, oftentimes, as it relates to other sports, Michael Jordan is still seen as the bar. So Patrick Mahomes just recently won the Super Bowl, but somehow, for some reason, he was called the Michael Jordan of football, the Michael Jordan of quarterbacks, things of this nature. So what that shows you and it proves is that Michael Jordan is recognized as the standard, the greatest of all time. So if we come to that realization, then that should be no surprise why I think or why many people believe that Mike Jordan's greatest of all time. All right, so we get that out of the way. But when we talk about number two and who would be number two and why are they number two, it doesn't really matter who's number two. The facts remain that there is nobody in the history of the NBA that really has an argument, in my opinion, over Michael Jordan. Now, do other players have arguments to be the greatest of all time? Yes, there are other players I believe that are worthy to be considered a greatest of all time. The problem is none of those players have an argument over Michael Jordan. That's the problem. So for me, I would have Wilt Chamberlain as number 2. But if you told me that Bill Russell was number 2, or that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was number 2, or that Kobe Bryant was number 2, or that Tim Duncan was number 2, or whoever was number 2, I may not have a problem. The only person that I've been talking about, I've been consistent with this, is that to me, LeBron James is not worthy to be in a top 10 conversation, to be in a top 5 conversation, to be a number 2 player all time, because he hasn't earned it the way the other all-time greats have.
All right, Rob, what do you have to say about what we had said, or what's your number 1 and 2, since you brought it up also?
Jordan's definitely the GOAT, and I got Bird number 2.
Absolutely, no problem with that.
Yeah.
Much respect to Larry Bird, man, all-time great.
But yeah, thank you for calling, Rob. Robin, do you want to take? We got T Ray in the back. Do you want to take him, or and then shut it off there, or do you want to shut it off now?
Yeah, no, man. Go ahead, dog. Run it, man.
All right, T Ray, welcome.
Hey, salute, fellas, man.
Much respect.
This is well needed. This panel, this channel, this narrative is well needed. But I appreciate it. I just want to touch base on you guys are talking about the top 2. I'll tell you where mine is. I have Kareem as my GOAT because of him being the greatest high school, collegiate, and NBA player. The only player that really can make that claim as the greatest on all 3 levels.
Okay, he dropped off. Oh, okay. I think he's coming back. Oh no, it dropped off again. I guess with that, the whole point with that, and I think you can argue that in a totality, like he's saying, for amateur and professional. But I think there are guys that measure up, like Bill Russell. I believe he won twice, not 3 times, but he won twice in college, he won twice in high school, and then he won 11 times in the pros. So I actually had a debate on that in my channel. I don't think I brought that up, but I think that that's a case to argue that Kareem is not in respect to amateur and professional, but not to make an argument, because if you think Kareem's the GOAT, I don't think it's that crazy. I don't think it's close between Michael and him, but like Robin is saying, I think if you say he's number 2 at the very least, I don't think it's crazy. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, man, I agree with you, Dart. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for me, I don't want to go too crazy or down a rant with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because I feel a lot differently than I feel like a lot of people do as far as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Dr. J and their place in the 70s and things like that. But when we talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, once again, I believe that he's worthy to be considered the greatest players of all time. Like I said, to me, he's one of those guys where he has the resume and you can make an argument. But for me, like I said, I just don't see how he's greater than Michael Jordan. I don't see an argument for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being greater than Michael Jordan. I mean, let's just think about the championships alone. They both won 6 championships, but somehow Kareem only has 2 Finals MVPs, right? So that's not a knock on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but that has to go towards Michael Jordan's greatness. He has 6 championships, and he was a Finals MVP for all of his championships. We think about, something like him playing with other players and things like that. But for me, when we think about, like I said, who could be number 2, or we talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as far as being the greatest high school player and the collegiate player and then an NBA player, that is an argument that people use for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in that kind of debate, in that conversation. But once again, when we use those conversations, Michael Jordan was no slouch in high school. I believe he was a state champion in high school, if I'm not mistaken. And we all know he won a championship at North Carolina. So it's not as if Michael Jordan was like some, also ran in college or high school, and all of a sudden he just came out of nowhere in the NBA. He was an All-American. He was the player of the year in North Carolina. And I'm not saying that Michael Jordan's a greater college player than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or anything like that. But, when we talk about, guys' careers in college or high school and then into the pros, there were a lot of guys that were great college players, that were great in the NBA also, man. But yeah, as far as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being considered the greatest of all time, yeah, I see that. But once again, the percentages of people who think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest of all time is a lot smaller than the people who think that Michael Jordan is. And that's the reality.
And I want to say this, and I've done some live streams recently with it. And what I had mentioned before about the 1 and 2 question is that I think there are 3 pillars when people talk about sports, and Michael Jordan, in my opinion, if you look at the totality of things, is by far the greatest. Because if you're number two, or 3, and then number 1 in these 3 major topics of sports, how are you not the greatest of all time when nobody else is even close to measuring up to being on top that much? So it's, you know what I mean? Because you can argue the team success of him being one of the greatest team success guys, statistically dominant with the points and steals, and then also the influence, so and impact on the game. So to me, I don't think it's close, because if you look at everyone else, they're not in the same league. So when you put it all together, but Robin, you have anything else you want to talk about or say to the people before we start heading out?
No, I guess it's just me and you left right now, man, with a last man standing here, so to speak. And like I said, it's a good weekend, man, for NBA playoff basketball. Like we talk about in this channel, man, everybody out there listening, man, when we talk about these things on our channels and we make these videos, this is never to tear down the NBA or tear down basketball. What we're doing here is we're trying to set the record straight, because we love the game of basketball and we respect the NBA's history. The history must be preserved. The standard must be upheld, and the truth must remain. We cannot allow them to rewrite the history that we watched growing up, and even before time, guys, like before I was growing up, guys were playing, man. So that's what's always been about, man. I'm still a fan of basketball, of the NBA. And like I said, man, shout out to everybody in the chat today, man, everyone that came through, everyone for the continued support, of the live streams, shout out to Angry Old Hoops, shout out to Hoop God, shout out to my man Nick, NNB Sports, for coming through the live stream. Shout out to my man Dart. Michael Jordan fans are the best as usual. Like I said, I'm truly humble. If anyone who's been supporting my channel, guys, it means a lot, man. So thank you to you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the games this weekend, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The same sentiments. And if you like what we have to say, please subscribe to our channels, including Sports and Fitness Rants. And check us out next week, where I think you're good to talk about, should LeBron James retire next year or this year?
Listen, we know that LeBron James will never retire until he gets his send-off. He has to have his send-off. He won't walk off without the send-off.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for the chat. Thank you for the super chats for everybody. And thank you for your participation. It's great as always. And for everyone, Michael Jordan fans are the best.